Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and today we are looking into something that happens every single day to thousands of people.
Thousands of people, yeah. I'm your expert for today, and this is a really fascinating one.
It really is. So thousands of people are having this clear, jelly-like substance injected straight under their cheekbones or jawlines.
Right.
And then, they spend the next year mashing their face into a pillow for 8 hours a night.
Yeah, sleeping, chewing, talking.
Exactly. Smiling, taking bites of food, just subjecting that gel to, like, thousands of pounds of cumulative shear force.
It's a lot of force.
It is. And yet, we expect it to stay perfectly in place, holding this very specific sculpted shape.
Which is honestly counterintuitive.
Right. Like, when you actually step back and consider how hostile and highly mobile the human face is, it's kind of crazy that a hydrogel doesn't just turn into absolute mush the second you chew your food.
Yeah, you'd think it would just dissolve or flatten out immediately.
Exactly. So the secret to how it survives isn't just about, cosmetic vanity. It's actually this absolute masterpiece of rheology.
Rheology, yeah, the physics of flow and deformation.
Right. So our mission for this deep dive is to look at a huge stack of clinical data and rheological studies to understand the bioengineering behind hyaluronic acid dermal fillers, or HA fillers.
And specifically, we're going to focus on how a property called cohesivity dictates a gel's ability to maintain a localized, palpable projection.
Right, like keeping that lifted cheekbone lifted.
Exactly, keeping that shape when it's just getting battered by the constant friction and compression of the face.
So to start, we really need to understand the battlefield here, right?
The battlefield of the face, yeah. It's not a static canvas.
No, not at all. You have all these tissue planes constantly gliding over one another.
Right, so the data we're looking at points to two main mechanical stresses that a filler has to face the second it gets implanted.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is shear deformation. So you can think of this as friction, lateral forces.
Like things rubbing together.
Exactly. Whenever you speak or smile, your muscles, like, say, the zygomaticus major in your cheek, they contract and they physically slide under the skin and over the bone.
Okay, so any filler sitting in that space is just getting sheared back and forth.
Horizontally, yeah. The tissue is actively trying to smear the gel across your face.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's the horizontal shearing. But there's also vertical pressure, right? Because the sources were talking a lot about compression and stretching forces.
Yeah, compression forces are huge. These are applied perpendicularly to the implant.
So pushing straight down on it.
Right. And some of that is just intrinsic. It's just the natural resting tension of your skin layers pulling tight against the filler.
Just constantly trying to flatten it out.
Always. And then you add extrinsic forces on top of that.
Right, like we mentioned earlier, resting your heavy head on your hand.
Right.
Or sleeping on your side.
Which is direct, sustained vertical compression for hours.
So if you took, like, a regular non-engineered gel and put it in there?
Oh, it would instantly disperse. Between the lateral shearing and the vertical compression, it wouldn't stand a chance.
But HA fillers survive. And the defense mechanism the sources explain is that they're viscoelastic.
Viscoelastic, right. Meaning they exhibit both fluid-like, viscous properties and solid-like, elastic properties.
And they can kind of toggle between the two depending on the stress they're under.
Exactly. I mean, think about how it actually gets into your body. It has to go through a tiny 27-gauge needle.
Right, so under that massive high shear stress of being pushed through a needle, it acts viscous.
It exhibits shear thinning behavior, so it can actually flow out of the syringe like a liquid.
But then, once it's in the tissue, dealing with the lower everyday stresses of you smiling or talking, it acts elastic to recover its shape.
Right. And in the rheological studies, there are two key metrics for this, G-star and G-prime.
Okay, break those down for me.
Sure. So G-star is the complex modulus. That's essentially the total overall hardness or firmness of the gel.
Like how hard it feels to the touch.
Exactly. It measures the total energy required to deform the material in any way.
Okay.
And then you have G prime, which is the elastic modulus. This specifically measures the energy the gel stores when it's deformed and then uses to bounce back to its original shape.
To recover its shape, right.
Yeah.
Let me try a practical analogy here.
Go for it.
So if we look at, like, a high-density memory foam mattress.
Okay, great example.
G-star would be the total amount of force it takes for me to press my hand into the mattress in the first place. Like how hard the foam is overall.
Right, the total resistance.
But G prime is the elasticity.
Yeah.
When I press my hand in, I'm deforming it, but that foam is storing the energy.
Yes.
And when I lift my hand, It uses that stored energy to just bounce right back to its original flat shape.
That is a perfect way to look at it. So in the context of your face, G prime is the gel's ability to bounce back from that lateral shearing when a muscle glides over it.
Right, so if it had high G star but low G prime.
It might be hard, but it wouldn't bounce back. A muscle would smear it laterally, and it would just stay smeared.
That's not what you want.
Definitely not. High G prime ensures that once you stop smiling, the gel snaps right back into its sculpted position.
Okay, but hang on. If G prime is just elasticity, just bouncing back from a swipe, what stops it from simply breaking apart?
What do you mean?
Well, if I take a really elastic piece of foam and I just keep grinding it and compressing it and rubbing it over and over,
Yeah.
eventually it crumbles.
It breaks down, yeah.
Right, it breaks into little pieces. So why doesn't the filler just shatter into a million microscopic beads of HA underneath the skin?
Okay, so this brings us directly to the core of the episode's focus. The metric that stops it from crumbling isn't elasticity, it's cohesivity.
Cohesivity.
Right. So if G prime is the ability to bounce back, cohesivity is the internal adhesion forces holding the individual units together.
Like how much the gel wants to stick to itself.
Exactly. It's the gel's intrinsic affinity for itself.
So it's kind of like a magnetic attraction, keeping the actual blob together so it doesn't scatter when I rub my face.
Yes, magnetic attraction is a great way to put it, and that internal glue is what directly dictates the palpable projection we were talking about earlier.
And a lift.
The lift, yeah. If you implant a filler with low cohesivity, those internal bonds are relatively weak.
So when it gets subjected to vertical compression like skin tension or you sleeping on it, what happens?
It detaches from itself, the gel separates, it spreads out laterally, and you completely lose that vertical lift.
It flattens out. So it
Yep.
basically migrates away from where the doctor put it.
Exactly. But a high cohesivity filler resists that compression. The internal bonds are so strong that the gel fights back against the tissue.
It refuses to separate.
Right, it maintains its original shape and vertical projection. High cohesivity is the anchor that stops migration.
Okay, well that raises a question for me. If high cohesivity is so strong and it holds its shape so well and stops migration,
Yeah.
why wouldn't a doctor just use the highest cohesivity filler everywhere? Like, just maximize it across the board to get the longest lasting result?
Well, biomechanically, a one-size-fits-all approach is actually quite dangerous for the face.
Oh, really? Why?
Because the face is a layered architecture. You have vastly different tissue densities.
Okay.
You have deep compartments right on the bone, but you also have incredibly superficial, delicate layers like just under the thin skin of the lips.
Oh, I see. So you have to match the physics to the anatomy.
Exactly. For deep structural changes, like building a cheekbone or chin projection, you are placing that gel deep on the bone.
Under heavy fat pads and thick muscle.
Right. So down there, you absolutely need high cohesivity and high G prime. It has to fight off all that heavy tissue compression to provide maximum lift.
But if you take that same hard, highly cohesive gel and inject it superficially, like into the lips.
It would be a disaster. Because it's so cohesive and it wants to stick to itself so aggressively, it completely resists integrating with the soft tissue.
It won't spread out.
No, it remains a distinct, isolated blob. So in a superficial layer, that manifests as irregular, palpable lumps, visible nodules under the skin.
Oh, yikes. And in the lips, that's where you get that weird, rigid look.
Exactly, the dreaded ski jump upper lip. The filler is projecting rigidly outward because it's actively fighting the natural mechanics of the tissue when you speak or smile.
Okay, so for the lips or fine lines, you need something different.
You need low to medium cohesivity. You want the internal bonds to be a bit looser so the gel can yield to the tissue's architecture.
It needs to kind of melt into the spaces of the dermis.
Right. It integrates seamlessly so it doesn't create those palpable nodules.
Okay, so this brings up a huge engineering question. We know raw hyaluronic acid is just a liquid, and it degrades in the body in a matter of days.
Naturally, yeah.
So manufacturers have to cross-link it, usually with a molecule called BDDE, to turn it into a lasting 3D hydrogel.
BDDE, yeah. You can picture BDDE molecules as microscopic bridges that form covalent bonds between the long chains of hyaluronic acid.
Right, but how are they manipulating those bridges to create all these vastly different cohesive profiles we just talked about?
Well, it all comes down to their patented cross-linking technologies. By altering how they build those bridges, they completely change the physics.
And the sources detail a few of these. Let's start with VY Cree-Cross.
VY cross is interesting because it specifically mixes high molecular weight chains of HA with low molecular weight chains.
Okay, so long chains and short chains.
Exactly. If you only use long, bulky chains, you naturally get microscopic gaps between them.
But if you throw in the short chains,
They fill in those gaps. This allows the BDDE bridges to connect the molecules much more densely.
so it's super tightly packed.
Highly efficient packing, yeah. And because of that, it creates a very smooth, highly cohesive network with great projection.
And then there's NASHA technology, which takes a totally different route.
NASHA, right. Non-amyl stabilized hyaluronic acid.
They don't mix chain lengths, do they?
No, NASHA relies on a controlled particle sizing process after the cross-linking is done.
Right, so they make it and then size it.
Yeah, they cross-link the HA into a very firm, dense mass, and then they force it through specialized screens.
To shear it into tiny, uniform particles.
Exactly. So it's a granular gel, and the specific particle size dictates where it's used. Large particles for deep lifting, small particles for fine lines.
Ah, okay, so it's the firmness of those individual particles that gives it such high G prime.
Precisely.
Okay, the third one mentioned was CPM, cohesive polydensified matrix. And this one sounded wild to me.
It is wild. It uses a two-step dynamic cross-linking process.
To create different density zones within the same syringe, right?
Yeah. They cross-link the HA once, then they physically stretch out that matrix, add more uncross-linked HA into the mix, and cross-linked it all a second time.
So you end up with like a hydrogel sponge that has really dense regions and really loose regions all mixed together.
Right. So when that gel is injected into the dermis, the looser regions easily flow and integrate into the tiny tissue spaces.
While the dense regions hold the structural cohesiveness.
Exactly. It's engineered to integrate beautifully without losing its shirt.
It's brilliant. And the last one was cohesivity technology.
Which focuses on the manufacturing environment itself.
Right, extracting oxygen. Because apparently, in these highly reactive chemical environments, oxygen creates free radicals.
And free radicals act like tiny microscopic scissors. They'll snip the long, fragile HA chains before the cross-linking even finishes.
Oh, wow. So they're destroying the material before it's even made.
Basically. So by extracting the oxygen, arc-free prevents that degradation. It preserves these exceptionally long HA chains.
And when you cross-link pristine, undamaged chains, you get really strong projection and high cohesivity.
Because the network is unbroken. It's structurally sound.
Okay, so we have all this advanced biochemistry, millions of dollars in research, dynamic two-step matrices, oxygen extraction.
Just high science, for sure.
Right, but then I looked at how they actually measure this cohesivity in the lab.
Yeah.
And I found it so funny because the tests are so low-tech compared to the engineering.
Well, there isn't one single standardized machine to measure internal stickiness. It's a huge debate in the field.
Right, so they use visual tests, like the Gavard-Sundaram cohesivity scale.
Yeah, where they literally just extrude the gel from a syringe into a beaker of sterile water.
Just to watch what it does in a fluid environment.
Exactly. They watch to see if it remains as one solid, continuous strand, or if the internal bonds fail and it breaks apart into a cloudy suspension.
It's so simple.
But it works. It gives immediate visual confirmation. They also do compression tests between plates and tack tests where they literally pull it apart to see how sticky it is.
But my favorite is the drop weight test.
Oh, the drop test.
We have all this patented biotechnology, and the big test is pointing a syringe downward and just pushing the plunger to see how big of a drop forms before gravity pulls it off.
It sounds totally ridiculous, but the physics are undeniable.
How so?
Well, as it pushes down, gravity applies a constant stretching force. If the cohesivity is high, those internal BDDE bridges and the magnetic affinity are so strong that they counteract gravity.
So it basically holds onto itself and forms this long suspended strand.
Exactly. But if cohesivity is low, the bonds break immediately, and it just drips rapidly in these small, non-cohesive droplets.
It's just such a funny juxtaposition, watching a blob of gel drip from a needle to confirm the integrity of a polydensified matrix.
But ultimately, that practical physics is all that matters.
Right.
Whether it's resisting gravity on a needle or resisting plates in a lab, the goal is predicting how that matrix will behave when you smile 1,000 times a day.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So, synthesizing all this,
Yeah.
a successful aesthetic treatment is incredibly far removed from just finding a hollow and pumping liquid into it.
It is a delicate dance of rheology.
Yeah, the cohesivity of the HA gel, that internal magnetic glue, is the hidden variable.
It dictates everything.
It dictates its ability to hold its ground, resist the shear forces, and fight back against vertical compression.
So that the sculpted projection stays lifted and localized, exactly where the doctor intended.
Instead of migrating into your jawline while you sleep. It's amazing. But looking at the trajectory of all this research, where is this actually going?
Well, it introduces a really provocative concept for the future.
Okay, what is it?
Right now, we engineer these hydrogels to resist forces, right? To act as a space-filling implant.
Right, something durable.
But as these technologies evolve, especially methods that preserve the native HA chains perfectly, the objective is shifting.
Shifting away from just filling a void.
Exactly. We are moving toward a paradigm where the goal isn't just to resist pressure, but to perfectly replicate the native mechanical behavior of human tissue.
Wait, really?
Yes, the goal for the next generation of cohesive hydrogels is for them to act so dynamically and with such perfect biomimicry to human fat and dermis that the body's surrounding cells can no longer differentiate between the synthetic implant and its own native tissue.
Wow. So tissue matching so biomechanically precise that it doesn't even function as a foreign substance anymore.
Exactly. It just becomes indistinguishable from your body's own restored mechanics.
That is wild. That completely redefines the boundary between aesthetic medicine and actual regenerative tissue engineering.
It's the ultimate goal.
Incredible. Well, that brings us to the end of our analysis of the sources today. Thank you for joining us as we explored the hidden physics of facial friction, shear forces, and the bioengineering of hydrogel cohesivity. Next time you rest your head on your hand or smile, take a second to appreciate the wild biomechanical forces at play and the microscopic bridges working overtime to keep it all together. Keep questioning the hidden science behind the everyday, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.